everyone, Jason here with another Nanocoaster model. Today we're going to be putting together the Millennium Force Nanocoaster Plus model from Cedar Point. Nanocoaster Plus is a newer type of Nanocoaster model that's a lot larger than the base Nanocoasters. There's a few other differences as well, so we'll go through those as we look at the video. So the first thing we'll look at is just the size difference in the boxes. As you can see here, the boxes, this is a standard Railblazer Nanocoaster. The box size is the same height. However, the Nanocoaster Plus is a lot wider. It's also slightly thicker. Not a lot, but just a little bit thicker to hold the extra materials. The Nanocoaster Plus models are measured at 24 inches long. So as I said, these are quite a bit bigger. So let's jump right in and see what's in the package. So included inside the package is actually 3 Cedar Point postcards. They give you these, I guess, just as kind of a bonus. They're not necessary, so we'll put them off to the side. You'll also notice that the base here is a little bit different. First of all, it's not acrylic. I don't know what the material is. It's a softer material though, but it's not the acrylic that you get with a typical Nanocoaster base. It also has the landscape printed on it around the Nanocoaster, so it's not just plain black. There's no paper to peel off this time. If you peel off the paper this time, you're peeling off the design. And this appears to just be some kind of sticker that's stuck on there. There are a few places in the corners it's peeling a little bit, but nothing terrible. You also notice that the base is several pieces. Most of your Nanocoasters just have a solid acrylic base. The Millennium Force one actually had 2 pieces. This has 3 very large pieces that are going to hook together. They just kind of go together loosely like that. And then to help you attach them, you have these little wooden pieces. If you've ever done a coaster cutout, you've seen this before. So this is just laser etched pieces that are going to attach to the bottom of the base and help us hold that together. Now the track pieces come in 2 large sheets like this. And you'll notice they're very similar to the other ones except for a few differences. For one, the track now has detail in it. Before, the Millennium Force one was just a blue line. Now you actually have that the same pattern that you have in the actual coaster. You'll also notice at the top of the lift hill you have a yellow train there. So that's kind of a nice detail. If you look at the sign with the logo on it, it's a lot larger than the typical Nanocoaster sign. And at the end of the video, I'm actually going to show this next to the regular Millennium Force Nanocoaster so you can kind of see the differences. And then the station is a lot larger. I believe it's shaped more like the actual Millennium Force station rather than just being a standard house like the other Nanocoaster models. And then lastly, we have our instruction booklet and a little thing instructing us on how to cut out the pieces. Now the first step before we begin assembly is going to be to remove all of the pieces. So I'm actually going to start with the wood pieces here. Like I said, if you've done a coaster cutout, you're familiar with this. With these, you can just kind of press them out. So you can just kind of use your fingernails to push these through and just work each of these pieces out. So I'm going to pop all these out really quick and then we'll move on to the metal sheets. So now that we have all of the wood pieces popped out over here, we can move on to the metal pieces. So the instructions tell you to use something like nail clippers, something sharp to cut these out. I actually like to use wire cutters. I have these flesh edge cutters that I purchased on Amazon. Really any flesh edge cutters should work, but I do have a link to these ones down in the description below. So to cut this out, you're just going to go around each of the track pieces here and cut each of these little tabs until the track piece is loose. So I'm going to proceed to cut out all of the different track pieces here and then we'll move on to that point. So as you can see, I now have all of the pieces cut out. So when you cut them out, you want to try to keep them as flat as possible. However, it's pretty much impossible to keep them completely flat. When you get them done, you can kind of flatten them out on the table. But mostly when you start putting them in, you're going to be shaping the track as you go along. And that's really where you'll get the pieces looking normal again. So let's start to jump right into construction then. Now to begin construction, we're actually going to start with our base plate pieces here upside down. And we're going to put the entire base plate together. So as I mentioned, there's 3 pieces here. So here you can see the 3 pieces of the base plate upside down. Now they don't stay together very well yet. And that's where these wooden pieces from like the coaster cutouts are going to come into place. So these are going to hook on underneath the coaster and kind of hold it all together. So we'll start with a couple of these small pieces. So we have these little itty bitty pieces here. So these are more just stands. These ones aren't going to hold it together. So up here on this side, you'll see 2 holes. So you can just kind of put this here and then push the piece down into place, and that's going to kind of level off the stand. Same thing on the other side up here. And then the third one is going to go down here. So there's one on each of the 3 legs of the Nanocoaster base. So you have the 3 small pieces just like that. Now with these longer pieces, these pieces are actually going to be used to hold it together. So you're going to use 2 to hold here together and then 2 more up here. And so you can just kind of come on here and line up the tabs with the holes on the base plate. So we'll just start right here and press these tabs down into place. And we'll repeat it with the second piece here. So all 4 of these long pieces and all 3 of the shorter pieces are all the same. So you're not having to do anything special there to match them up. The holes are all evenly distributed, so you can just kind of grab whichever one's most convenient and then put them down into place. So that there is going to complete our base plate. We can flip this over now. You can see it mostly stayed together. The track will help support it a little bit more as well. So it can just sit like that. And now it's time to begin building the coaster onto the base plate. So step 2 is going to have us begin with a piece that's mostly flat here. And this is going to be the lift hill at the start of the coaster. And so that piece is going to be going over here on this edge. Now if you look at the base plate, so each of the coasters have these basically long pieces of metal at the bottom. These really only fit one place most of the time. And so we have this really long piece of metal, there's a really long cut here, and then there's a shorter cut here for the piece back here. So for assembly, we can just kind of drop this down in through that tab. And it does take a little bit of work to get it in there. Like I said, this material is a little bit different than the other Nanocoasters. Typically you're dealing with an acrylic base. This is a softer material. But it does still take a little bit of work to get this work down into there. And then once you have it inside, underneath you'll see that there's these little tabs here that need to be bent over. So we have one right there, we can just kind of fold over into place. And then we have 2 more underneath the lift hill area that once again we'll just fold over into place. And this is going to hold this piece of the track there. I may not flip the track over to show this every time, but I just kind of wanted to show you here. So it kind of looks like that. Put the coaster back. There you can see we have the lift hill here. We can just kind of go along and straighten out the track a little bit now. Like I said, there's probably a few bends in it from pulling it out. This is a pretty flat piece, but we'll just straighten it out a little bit. And that's the first piece installed. So the second piece here is going to be the first turnaround. It has kind of the spider web structure here that supports the round portion of the track. Now with a lot of the Nanocoasters, when you're dealing with tight turns, I like to use small things like batteries to help you shape. If you have items that are the right shape or right size here to help you shape, that may not be a bad idea, but it may not be as necessary with this one. So with this piece of track, you want to start at the bottom of the lift hill. So you want to find the lower end here. And we'll just kind of drop it down into place. And then we'll bend the tab over underneath there. And then we can just kind of shape the track around. So we can just kind of bend it until we get this first tab into place on the turnaround, and then continue bending it around until we get this last one to fit into place, and slide it down into place as well. We'll press it down. And then once again, just reach underneath with your finger. You can feel for the tabs and then bend them over. And then once you have it there in place, then you can just kind of go and work it with your fingers so that you have kind of the right radius. You don't want any sharp bends in it, just kind of smooth out the bends and the turns. Make sure your track pieces down here kind of match up where the two track pieces come together. And so there's our first two pieces installed. So we have the lift hill and then the first turnaround. So continuing on, we're going to use this long piece here. It's a little bit elevated here with the longer metal piece, and this is going to go into this wide low turn here. So once again, we'll begin right at the bottom of where we left off before and put this first tab down into place, and then bend over that tab. And then we'll just kind of work our way around the turn and drop each of these little tabs down into the matching holes as we go around. As I mentioned earlier, this is, one of the nice things here is that these really only fit in one place, so you can't really mess this up. But we can put those down in and shape it. One thing I did notice is the little cuts here for the tabs aren't exactly right on the track layout. They're pretty close, but they're not exact. So you have to put them in the little holes, but it may not match up with the track layout exactly as you go around. But we got a pretty nice turn there, so now we have the first three pieces of track installed. So step 5 is going to have us switch into a different part of the layout, and we're going to be using this track piece right here. Kind of has kind of a smaller hill into a flat area. And so this flat area is going to begin, so right here, out here we have two holes next to each other. It's going to begin with the second hole. So you're not going to use both of them with this track piece, you'll just use one. And we'll just continue bending around this circle here, kind of matching this up to the track, and put the second tab into place. And then the third one is going to end here where we also have two little holes as well. So right here, once again, there's 3 tabs underneath that we can just kind of fill for as we reach around here and bend each of those over. And then we'll shape the track just a little bit with our fingers here. I'll rotate this so I can see it a little bit better here. And just kind of do a little bit of track shaping. Make sure that you're pretty close to this circle radius as you go around. So that's how we're looking so far. So step 6 is going to continue out of this turnaround here with this track piece right here. So we're going to start right where we left off up here. You can kind of tell where it's supposed to be because the track heights will match up. So we'll match up this piece here and bend over the tab. And then just continue bending around, and we have a wider tab down here that we can drop into place and then bend over as well. Do a little bit of track shaping, make sure these track pieces match up. And so there we are through step number 6. So step 7 is going to complete this turnaround down here. It's a little bit sharper of a turn. We're going to be using this piece right here. And so for this piece, we're going to begin once again right where we left off and drop this tab down into place and bend over the tab underneath. And then we got to wrap it around this turnaround, and then we have a much longer metal tab to drop into place here right after the turnaround. And then we'll bend it back the other direction and put the final tab in place as well. Once we have that all pressed into place, we can reach underneath and bend over the tabs to hold it. And we'll just do a little bit of track shaping here. Make sure we have it just right all the way around this piece. Once again, make sure your track pieces match up. Make sure that the shaping matches up kind of with the line on the base plate. And now we have that turnaround done as well. So step 8 is going to continue right from where we just left off. We have this long metal tab here that's going to go down into the base plate. This part of the base plate, it's not cut exactly even, so you'll notice right here till the seam it's cut very wide. Right after the seam it's a little bit narrower. But we got to press this down into place there. So it's going to be a little bit tougher probably where it gets narrower. And then there's one further tab down here. But we can drop that down into place and then bend over our tabs underneath. So that's going to create that airtime hill right there. Step 9 is going to create the airtime hill that runs right next to it. And so this piece is going to continue off of the first turnaround piece that we did down here. So there's just one small tab at that end that we can drop into place and bend over. And then that's going to go into a much larger metal tab here that goes over the seam. So we'll drop that down in place as well. And then there's a shorter tab that connects this piece to the beginning of the coaster as well. And so there we are, completed up through step number 9. So step 10 is going to use this piece right here, and it's going to kind of come out of this turnaround here. So we can just kind of come in here right where the first piece ended off, and we're going to have to bend this because it's going to run into another piece. But we can drop this first tab down into place, and then just bend it around the corner and drop the second one into place as well, and then bend over the tabs underneath. And then once again go through here and just do a little bit of track shaping. After each piece you do, you want to do a little bit of track shaping, like I said, to make sure your track pieces are matching up where they connect, and then make sure that it's not too bent as you go along. Like I said, you do bend them a little bit, pulling them off the sheet, but you can kind of straighten them out a little bit as you go around and assemble this. So step 11 is going to use this piece right here, and this is going to continue on into the final turnaround. So we'll start right with the piece we left off, and that's going to drop a tab down into place. And then we'll kind of round the corner a little bit, put this longer tab into place, bend this around, and then drop the last one into place. And then bend over the tabs underneath. We'll make sure these match up here. And then step 12 will have us putting in the last track piece, which is this one that doesn't have a pattern. So this is the final brake run here. And this is just going to go in the last remaining gap. You'll just want to make sure that you have it put in so that the track pieces do match up. Drop it down in and bend over those tabs. And that is going to complete the track assembly for this model. So the final two pieces we have are the station and the sign. This is the station piece here. I'm actually going to use needle nose pliers here, and we're going to bend it into the shape of the Millennium Force station. So like with most of these models, you just have a little house, but I guess with the Nanocoaster Plus, they try to make it a little bit more accurate to the actual coaster. And so this one is a longer station here, and it's not quite house shaped. You're going to bend each side in two different places to create almost more of a barn shape, similar to that. It's not perfect there. I think we should be able to shape it a little bit more after we get it onto the base. You just kind of get it most of the way there with some pliers. And then there's two slots right over here at the bottom of the lift hill that we can drop this down into place on. And then bend over the tabs underneath. And then like I said, you should be able to do a little bit more shaping here now that it's there. And then the last piece is going to be the sign, and this is going to go underneath the lift hill. So we'll drop this into the last remaining tab, bend over the tab underneath, and then just kind of bend it backwards a little bit. And so that's going to complete the Millennium Force Nanocoaster Plus model. It's the full track layout, station, sign, everything's there. You may want to once again go over it just one last time, make sure you have the track shaping just the way you want it. It's definitely not perfect, especially here in this airtime hill. But that's something that you can fix over time, just kind of tweaking with it. But we'll keep it in that. So how does the Nanocoaster Plus model compare to the regular Nanocoaster model? As you can see here, there's quite the size difference. The new Nanocoaster Plus is more than twice as tall as the regular Nanocoaster, but it's also a much larger footprint here. This is just kind of within this little cutout. The Nanocoaster Plus sells on Cedar Point's online shop for $74.99. The regular Nanocoaster is $34.99. I'll have links to both of them down below, so you can kind of see that. So this one is twice as much money. It's also a lot larger, so you are getting a lot more material, a lot more track, things like that. One of the other big differences here is the base plates. I will say I prefer the acrylic base plates of the original Nanocoasters. They're a lot sturdier, and there's also a lot smaller track. And so these actually feel, semi-sturdy. This larger one isn't one that I'd really want to move around a lot. This base plate is a lot softer. The seams don't fit together perfectly, and there's a few problems there. The base plates on these new ones just feel a lot cheaper, almost like a cardboard with a sticker print on top of it. But ultimately it's a very nice looking display piece, just not one that you want to move around a lot. It also does take up quite a bit of space, as you can see. This Millennium Force Nanocoaster is one of the larger footprint Nanocoaster models. In fact, it's one of the few that actually has multiple pieces for the base plate. But this is much larger here. But overall, like I said, it is a really cool display piece, and kind of rotate it around here. See the different sides. Thanks for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I hope this video will help you in deciding if you want to purchase this model, or if you already did purchase it with assembly. It is a cool model. Like I said, I prefer the structural integrity of the smaller models a little bit better. But overall, it's a really cool piece, and it's really cool to have the landscape and stuff printed on the base plate underneath. So that's a nice touch. If you did like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button down below. If you didn't like it, that's okay as well. If you want to see more videos like this related to nano coasters and coaster cutouts, make sure you hit the subscribe button, as I'll have more videos coming up soon. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.